we don't always want to see something that's biblically based. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can make things that are good, wholesome, and still have, a good story and everything. You know what I mean?
Purpose driven living, that's the motto. Purpose driven living, boy, that's the motto. If God orders my steps, then I'ma follow. We just steward the gifts that we borrow. Purpose driven living.
Well, welcome everybody. This is Driven. My name is Quintrell Lenore. I'm here with my buddy Shelton Johnson, who's near and dear to my heart here. And if this is your first time viewing, this is a series where we're unpacking regular people living out purpose-driven lives. And so I have a special guest, a special friend of mine, Shelton Johnson. And the sort of heart behind this series in particular really is for those of us that sort of have multiple interests or passions or responsibilities, just figuring out how we navigate this, right? There's no sort of clean-cut way in which we sort of maximize our gifts and our talents and operate in those. And so this series for me in particular was sort of birthed out of imposter syndrome. Can I really do this? I see myself as a creative, as an entrepreneur, I'm a professional. But just really struggling sometimes with that imposter syndrome. But then on top of that, we live in a very fast-paced a world where things change and we see folks on social media promote the wonderful creative things that they're doing. So on the flip side of that is that jealousy piece. So I wanted to be able to just see how people maximize their creative opportunities, do the work that they do. And I have a super special guest to help us unpack it this week. And so my buddy Shelton Johnson, who's a husband, a father, he's an author, award-winning novelist, screenwriter, and filmmaker. And on top of that, he has this full-time job working with the Department of Defense. No big deal. My buddy Shelton Johnson, man, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
Hey, man, I cannot complain.
I just want to say I'm an award-winning screenwriter, not an award-winning novelist.
Not an award-winning novelist. Okay.
Just
okay.
award-winning screenwriter, yeah.
Eventually you'll be there, right?
Eventually. That's one of the goals for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, bub. Like for you and I, we definitely have a history, man. Folks don't realize that we went to the same university. We played on the football team. You're a little bit older than me, so I always looked up to you in a lot of regards as an athlete, but also just as a male. Folks probably don't know that you got an old man spirit, man. So growing up and knowing who you are, you always had sort of you carved out your own lane, and that's something that I've always admired about you. And now that we've sort of transitioned from college 10 years later, starting our own lives, you're still continuing to do that, man. I really want the people to know about what you do. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Your background, the work that you do. Tell us who is Shelton Johnson and what does he do?
Well, like you said in the introduction, man. Well, first let me say hi to everybody. But like you said in the introduction, man. First and foremost, I'm a husband. Then I would say I'm a family man, father. Actually, you know what? I would say Christian first, and then husband, family man, father. And then like I said, I have my 9-to-5 career where I work for the federal government. But after that, it's my, I would say, my writing and filmmaking that I really enjoy doing, and that I take the time, I take my free time, I should say, rather, where my alone time, most people will watch TV and do things to entertain themselves. I find joy in writing and filmmaking.
Hi, at Lenore Coaching, we work with a wide variety of job seekers, including students, early career professionals, and experienced professionals, with services including job search strategy, career exploration, personal branding, networking, interview preparation, as well as resume and cover letter writing. So you guys can contact us first by reaching out to our website, which is www.lenorecoaching.com.
You can also contact us via social media. We have Instagram and Facebook pages, Lenore Coaching LLC.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's funny because what I know about you, when we were playing football back at JMU, you were somebody that was dabbling with music, man. So I know that we didn't have a lot of free time, but when you did have free time, you were playing around with the chorus, man. So obviously you've always been strategic with your time. Tell us a little bit about for really starting out as an author, right? Where did that come about? How did you get into wanting to start and write your own books, man? And where did that passion come from?
So I'm gonna tell you the full length story. I always cut the story short, and I always give people bits and pieces of. I'm gonna tell you the full length story. It actually started in the 6th grade. I wrote a book called let me tell you how I started the very beginning. 6th grade, my mother put us in this after school studies program for tutoring and whatnot. And it was pretty much, a place where kids did their homework until their parents came and picked them up. And I got done with my homework early. All the other kids were over there doing their homework. I'm sitting by the window waiting for my parents. And the lady who was running it said, why don't you just go read a book instead of sitting there bored? And I said, I don't really feel like reading. And she said, well, if you don't feel like reading a book, why don't you go write a book? And I was like, I said, you know what? I think I will. And I went and I sat down and I wrote this book called The Original Prose. It got me on the local news. It ended up getting published. It was in local elementary schools and whatnot. And that's when, ever since then, I kind of always dabbled a little bit in writing. In college, I wrote a couple plays that never came to fruition, never got them performed anything. And then in 2010, when my wife and I, we were dating then, we got engaged about a month later, but we were dating, and I went to go take her to visit my family and meet my family and whatnot. And we had a great weekend over Thanksgiving, and on the drive back, I was like, I think I'm gonna write a book about this weekend. And she was like, you gonna write a book about it? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book about it. So now check out how time is though. This is funny how time works. So I went home and immediately I wrote the first chapter, and that thing sat in my living room for 3.5 years until my son was born in 2014. When my son was born in 2014, of course, you know how it is when you have a child, you're preparing a room and painting and doing all this stuff, getting the crib together, all this mess. And so my wife is like, of course, she's pregnant. And she said, Shelton, we need to clean this stuff out in the living room. What all this? I had a bunch of halfway done projects and stuff around the house. And one of them, of course, was that book sitting in the living room. It was in a notebook. I was writing it by hand like I do all my books. And she said, a longhand, what professional writers would call it. What about this book? I was like, I'm gonna finish that book. I'm gonna finish it. And I was like, I ain't gonna buy nothing else. I ain't gonna do nothing else until I finish everything. So that's what I did. I finished all the projects, including that book. And I did the book last. but the funny thing about it is though, while writing it, I really enjoyed it. And then in the middle of writing it, I said, I can make this a trilogy. I thought of 2 other stories that go with it. And then while writing the trilogy, I thought of other stories, and I really found myself enjoying writing. And that's how it all came about from there. And then, so in 2015 is when I started taking it seriously. After I published the first novel, that's when I really started taking it seriously and started making time out of my day for it. Losing sleep, rather, is really what it is. I couldn't change anything. I mean, because a lot of people don't know that when you have a family, man, you have wife, kids, all that stuff, whatever. You have to.
Hey family, it's your boy Quintrell Lenore here with brand new merch to keep you guys looking good this season. We have long sleeve, short sleeve, as well as hoodies. Check us out at gumroad.com/PDL apparel. We got all the swag you need to stay covered in purpose.
Be accessible, and so being from in that mindset of being accessible, I knew, okay, when do I have alone time? I can't write with people running around anyway. So I was like in my sleep. So I started losing sleep so now I sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. And but I've gotten to where it's the routine now. So it's not even, some people are like, oh my gosh, you only sleep 4 or 5 hours. But when you're used to it, it's not a big
second
deal.
nature. Right.
Second nature, right.
Wow. It's funny hearing you talk about like that journey for the very first the book, and honestly, I want to put it out there. So you're referring to your first novel, Thankful for My Family, correct?
Yes, right. The first novel is Thankful for My Family. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like obviously the cool thing about all of your novels is that I hear your story, I hear your testimony, and you're not shy about bringing the family and your personal story. But I want to iterate one thing that you pointed out was like this was a process. I think, you know, in our current sort of culture, in the arts and anything that we do as entrepreneurs, we expect things to sort of come to fruition fairly quickly. But for you, one, it started out as like just you having an outlet, you know, from you being a kid, and then from obviously when you were in college, you wrote those screenplays. But you writing in the first point is just your outlet. That's just your thing, if you will. And so I think that's something to drive home for listeners out there, for anybody that's a creative writer, whatever your sort of thing is own that, let that be yours. And then the other thing that I heard from you was it took time. Like, it doesn't sound like it was necessarily your MO was to, how can I monetize this, or how can I make this into a huge business model? It sounds like at some point, you know, that came into fruition. So I just want to put that out there for those that might be listening. I'm curious, you, man, like, what really is the motivation for your writing in particular? You referenced that your first novel was Thankful for My Family. You kind of have a concept behind the rest of those. So tell me a little bit about the concept for your books and the motivation behind what you're writing. A
lot of my stories really deal with family, and even the ones that's not necessarily have to name the word family in the title, like my novel Mr. Wilder. Some of the screenplays I've written thus far since then, because I really feel like there's really a lack of that in the entertainment industry now.
Hey, what's going on, family? Do not forget to check out the music that inspired the movement, PDL. This project is by yours truly, Quintrell Lenore. It's streaming on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it, go check it out. This project was produced by Dilly Got It Bumpin'. It's awesome music to help you guys stay motivated and to worship in this season.
When you click on the TV now, especially if you're a family man, a Christian family man with values and morals, and you want to raise your children and have your family be in that same environment, that same space, there's not a lot on TV for you guys to enjoy. And especially, don't get me wrong, even as Christians, we don't always want to see something that's biblically based. You know what I mean? Right. You can make things that are good, wholesome, and still have, a good story and everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's really where a lot of my stories are they're definitely heading in that direction. Early on, I ain't even gonna get into that, but yeah, but yes, they're definitely heading in that direction for sure, man. So that's what I think that's what really draws me to it, is that I enjoy making people laugh. I love the writing process, and I didn't know that I would enjoy the filmmaking process as much as I did. I really enjoyed it, and so. And like you talked about earlier with time and God's gift and God's plan, man, it's when God puts something in your head, I believe it's for you. You just have to put in the work to do it. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take, he even says it in Habakkuk 2:2, when he talks about writing down your vision, don't tarry, because this, though it may take a while, it's coming. It'll surely happen. And so, but that comes with having faith. That's the thing, man. A lot of Christians talk about having faith, but very rarely do you see any Christians show it.
That's so good.
But hey, and I'm not trying to condemn Christians, but I'm just telling you, it's not easy to show faith. It's not. Right. It's really not easy to show faith. Faith is showing consistency even when you don't see what you're doing makes a difference. You got to keep on just knowing that you're doing what's right.
Right. No, that's I think that's a good word. Honestly, for anybody, whether they're a Christian, not a Christian, it's something to be said about consistency. But I like the fact that you're transparent about that when it comes to anything we do in life. Obviously, we're focusing on our creatives and the arts and entrepreneurship. But you talked a lot about having faith throughout this process.
Purpose-driven living, that's the motto. Purpose-driven living, boy, that's the motto. If God orders my steps, then I'ma follow. We just steward the gifts that we borrow. Purpose-driven living.